Hello, and welcome all to Movie Hunter, the show that tracks down the quality of all sorts of movies. My name is Hunter, and today in the 24th episode, our target is Toy Story 3, produced by Pixar Animation Studios and distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures. The first concept of a third Toy Story movie was created by the Walt Disney Company as a part of their 7-film deal with Pixar, which gave the Disney Company the rights to create sequels for the films, though Pixar retained the rights to opt out of the production process. The film, being made through Disney's now defunct company Circle 7 Animation, was going to be directed by Bradley Raymond, who previously directed Disney's direct-to-DVD sequels The Hunchback of Notre Dame 2 and The Lion King 1.5. A few scripts were written, and while ultimately abandoned, interestingly enough, I found minor similarities to the plots of the television specials Toy Story of Terror and Toy Story That Time Forgot, as well as the spin-off film Lightyear, and what little we know about the plot of the upcoming Toy Story 5. In January of 2006, Disney fully purchased Pixar that changed up the deal, and Toy Story 3 was cancelled. In February of the same year, it was announced that the Pixar team would continue the film, starting from scratch. The director was Lee Unkrich, the co-director of the second film and the editor of both prior films. The screenplay was by Michael Arndt, and the story was by John Lasseter, Andrew Stanton, and Lee Unkrich. Darla K. Anderson was the producer, and the cinematographers were Jeremy Lasky and Kim White. The editor was Ken Schwartzman, and the composer was Randy Newman, the composer of the previous 2 films and many other Pixar films. The cast sees the return of Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, Joanne Cusack, Don Rickles, Estelle Harris, Wallace Shawn, John Ratzenberger, Jeff Pidgeon, R. Lee Ermey, Jodie Benson, John Morris, Laurie Metcalf, and Eric Von Detten. The cast also includes Javier Fernandez-Pina, Ned Beatty, Michael Keaton Blake Clark, replacing the now-deceased Jim Varney, Bea Miller, Emily Hahn, Lori Allen, Bonnie Hunt, Timothy Dalton, Christian Schau, Jeff Garlin, Bud Luckey, Charlie Bright, Amber Crone, Biana Miawand, Lee Unkrich, Teddy Newton, Woody Smith, Whoopi Goldberg, John Segan, Jack Angel, Jan Rabson, and Richard Kind. The film was released on June 18, 2010, becoming Pixar's 11th film after 2009's Up and before 2011's Cars 2. It made $1.067 billion on a budget of $200 million, becoming the highest-grossing animated film of all time, the highest-grossing film of 2010, the 4th highest-grossing film of all time, and the first animated film to reach $1 billion. The film was nominated for 97 awards, of which it won 42 of. The film opens with a playtime with the toys, but unlike the opening to the first film, it's presented as though the toys were actually in this situation. We then cut to Andy playing with them like usual in a montage plays, showing Andy's love for his toys. We then cut to a brand new scene in which it is revealed that Andy is now 17 and leaving for college soon. His toys, or rather what remains of them, are worried about their future, and exhausted at not having been given any attention from Andy in years. With his mom pressuring him to get his stuff packed, Andy throws the toys in a garbage bag to place in the attic, though he puts Woody in the college box instead. Andy abandons the bag in the hall to help his sister Molly, and Andy's mom picks it up, assuming it's trash, and takes it to the curb. Woody goes to save them, but instead finds that they have saved themselves, and, feeling abandoned by Andy, not knowing the whole story, decide to place themselves in a donation box, which Woody is placed in as well. Taken to Sunnyside Daycare, the gang meet the leader of the toys, a friendly purple teddy bear named Lotso, as well as some of his assistants like Big Baby and Ken, who quickly falls in love with Molly's Barbie doll that she donated. The toys love the daycare for having a constant rotation of kids and the way they are taken care of. Woody tries to convince the toys otherwise, but is unable to, and leaves by himself. He is successful until he is picked up by a little girl named Bonnie, the daughter of one of the workers at the daycare, and is taken home with her and loses his hat in the process. Meanwhile, the toys realize that they are in the room dedicated to the youngest kids, who are wild and rough on the toys, unlike the kids in Lotso's room, who are calm. That night, Buzz goes to confront Lotso about this, but sees Lotso's gang playing cards and is captured by them. Lotso then enters and is appalled to see such behavior, untying Buzz. Lotso then explains to him that the newer toys are required to stay in the little kid room until they work their way up, though he does offer Buzz a position in his gang. Buzz refuses, wanting to stay with his group, but Lotso ties him back up and is able to access his hardware to reset his memory and make him think he is a space ranger again. The rest of the gang realize that Mrs. Potato Head can see through her detachable eye that she left in Andy's room, and she sees Andy's upset that he can't find them. Realizing they made a mistake leaving, Jessie gets ready to search for Buzz, but instead Lotso, his gang, and the brainwashed Buzz trap the toys for trying to leave. Lotso then shows them Woody's hat, implying that Woody was captured or worse for trying to leave. Meanwhile, we see Woody in Bonnie's room, where he meets her toys, who help him look up the directions to Andy's address. Upon mentioning Sunnyside Daycare, Woody is told by Bonnie's toys the horrors of the place, and tell him to talk to the toy clown by the window who knew Lotso personally. Chuckles the clown explains that he, Lotso, and Big Baby were owned by a girl named Daisy. Daisy loved the trio a lot, but most of all Lotso. Being brought on a car ride, the trio are accidentally left behind and travel for days to get back. Upon finally arriving, Lotso discovers that he was replaced by a different Lotso toy and quickly turns to anger and resentment. The trio found Sunnyside Daycare, which Lotso quickly took over and ruled with an iron fist. Chuckles left with Bonnie, seeing his friend turn bad, and Woody quickly goes back to save his friends. After another brutal day of playing, the toys are delighted to meet up with Woody, who is informed about Buzz and creates a plan using information from a kindly chatter telephone toy. With the help of Barbie, who betrays Ken, the toys formulate a plan to escape, which involves Buzz being accidentally set to Spanish mode, but are thwarted by Lotso and his gang as they are leaving, him having found out about the plan by torturing the chatter telephone. Ken tries to stop him, but Lotso simply throws him over with the toys. Woody confronts Lotso about Daisy, which sparks him into an outrage, where he sparks the outrage of Big Baby after complaining about his attachment still there for Daisy. Big Baby throws Lotso into the dumpster to be taken away, but Lotso grabs Woody and drags him down there too. The other toys join him, but Barbie and Ken stay behind with Lotso's henchmen. Now at the dump, the gang struggles to stay together as the three toy aliens are swooped up and Buzz is crushed by a TV that reverts him back to normal. The gang avoid getting crushed but help out Lotso too, despite what he did to them. When they face the incinerator, Lotso gets helped up by Woody and Buzz, but ultimately decides to abandon them. Mere feet from the incinerator, the friends hold hands and prepare to face the flames. Just then, the aliens swoop them up with a giant claw and bring them to safety. Lotso is found by a trash truck driver, and is tied to the front of the truck. The toys clean off and hitch a ride on a garbage truck back to Andy's. Woody and the other toys say goodbye as the toys go into the box going to the attic, and Woody goes for the college box. Woody then gets an idea and quickly writes a note to place on top of the attic box, pretending to be written by Andy's mom. Andy grabs the note and sees an address with the idea to donate them. Andy, on his way to college, stops by Bonnie's house and offers his toys to her. When he finishes, Bonnie searches the box and finds Woody, excited at finding her cowboy doll. Andy hesitates but decides to give Woody to her as well. Andy leaves, and Woody and the other toys watch him drive off. There's a lot to unpack with this film, but the best place to start is likely with the main cast of toys and the message that is intertwined within every aspect of the film. Firstly, the opening to the film is amazing. Showing a fun playtime within the mind of Andy is a ton of fun. Following it is a great sequence of Andy playing with the toys, as time is an unthought factor. We then hard cut to a present day, in which it is shocking to show that Andy is not only 17 now, and moving to college soon, but that the toys that remain is a far cry from the group that was there in Toy Story 2. The group now consists of only Woody, Buzz, Jessie, Bullseye, Slinky, Ham, Rex, Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, and the 3 Pizza Planet aliens. This makes a lot of sense, I think, though I do think it's a shame that Bo Peep wasn't there. It makes sense because she was Molly's toy and not Andy's, and she never was in a main role in the previous films, but still it's a shame and really stings, but that's kind of the point. I love the decision to not make any of the toys the lead one as well. While Woody, Buzz, and Jessie are still the most active protagonists, the toys all feel very unified throughout, and the important sense of togetherness is still there. Each one plays a different role with a unique perspective and characterization. Woody struggles to stay true to his morals as Andy grows up, Buzz does what he can to best support the group, and Jessie deeply fears this new chapter, having gone through a similar thing already with her previous owner, as established in the previous film. The toys attempting to get Andy to even just notice them results in a very sad aftermath, with Sarge and his remaining 2 army men leaving, dealing a great blow against the morale of the group. Andy is also a very relatable character in this one, which is another thing that's unique for these films. In previous movies, Andy was always the stand-in for any kid. Not a bad character, but nothing really to analyze more of. Here, however, Andy's struggle to make decisions as he moves forward is painfully accurate. When he finally decides to put his toys in the attic, the toys he grabs last are Woody and Buzz, mimicking his decision to bring Woody to Pizza Planet instead of Buzz in the first film. He similarly decides to take Woody with him to college and Buzz to the attic. The misunderstanding in which Andy's mom brings them to the curb and thus the toys think that Woody was wrong and that Andy doesn't care about them could have been very annoying, but it is played off very well, giving a great motivation for the toys wanting to leave to go to the daycare. Woody accompanies, trying to convince them otherwise, but when the daycare looks to be a beautiful place thanks to Lotso, the toys are committed to staying. There's a great example of the previously minor characters making a big difference to this film in this scene. When Woody is asking the toys to come back to Andy's with him, it's Rex who chimes up and says maybe Andy doesn't care about us anymore. Rex, the usually shy and uninterested in conflict, is the one to say what the group has been saying, and is the one that makes Woody realize it, and Woody makes for Andy's house alone. With this, the toys are sad to see Woody leave, but decide that he'll be better off there, going to college with Andy, and are excited to be finally being played with again. However, things don't turn out well. The kids are young and rough on the toys, and not playing make-believe, but rather using the toys for objects of destruction. This leads Buzz to confront Lotso and get taken control over, and Lotso shows his true colors to the group. With the help of Mrs. Potato Head, they also discover that Andy does truly care for them, making them want to go back. With Woody learning about the terrible things at Sunnyside, he reunites with the group once more to help them escape. The prison escape sequence is amazing. Each toy gets a special role, and the entire long escape is creative and anxiety-inducing. I love Woody and Slinky taking out the toy monkey that watches the security cameras, the part where Mr. Potato Head has to replace the plastic potato for a tortilla, the part where Woody, Bullseye, and the aliens get temporarily separated, and the part where they try to fix Buzz, but instead set him to Spanish mode. By the way, Buzz thinking that he is a space ranger again while under the control of Lotso is a great callback to the first film. After finally escaping and Lotso getting defeated, the day seems saved until they too are dragged into the dump. This is where the real fright comes in. Before, in previous films, punishment for failure would likely result in capture. Not great, but survivable. Here, in the dump though, failing results in death. The final part with the incinerator is truly terrifying. It really seems like the characters are going to die. I don't know how Pixar managed to make everyone think that they were really just going to burn all their beloved characters in a pit of fire, but they do. The way the characters all grab hands and close their eyes gets me every time. Their magnificent saving by the aliens and the giant claw is glorious. An amazing callback to the first film, great accompanying music, and a phenomenally placed the claw from the aliens is astoundingly perfectly written and timing. And the ending, what can I say that hasn't already been said? Andy donating his toys to Bonnie is simply heartbreaking and heartfelt at the same time. One by one, Andy takes them out of the box and says what is special about each. The final fatal blow to everyone's hearts, though, is when he gives up Woody. I love that Andy plays with them one final time with Bonnie, just allowing the toys one more send-off, and Andy one more time to be a kid again. And the toys watching Andy drive off, and Woody saying, "So long, partner," as the camera pans to the sky and shows the clouds in a similar formation of the ones on Andy's wallpaper. That's when the waterworks hit, if they miraculously haven't already. I love this story so much. From the unification of the main protagonists to the ups and downs they experience in the story, it is simply miraculous to me that Pixar took this many risks with their main franchise so that they could get a proper send-off they deserve, and it paid off amazingly. I also love the closing credits that feature the great song "We Belong Together," and shows the toys getting along with Bonnie's toys. Also, seeing Sunnyside Daycare get turned around and become a safe place for toys is amazing. And of course, the Spanish version of "You've Got a Friend in Me" to call back Buzz's Spanish mode, as well as continue the upbeat ending is great, and to include the most iconic song in the franchise, of course. Next, we must absolutely talk about the villain of the film, Lotso, who is an extremely strong contender for the best Pixar villain. What makes Lotso so special, beyond his brilliant writing and inevitable, believable status as a kind person, is that he legitimately could be considered more evil than so many villains in R-rated movies, let alone a film rated G. Lotso is introduced to us as a kind teddy bear who welcomes newcomers with open arms and treats every toy regardless of health with equal kindness. I mean, his name is Lotso Huggin' Bear. He loves hugs and smells like strawberries. How could he possibly be evil? It isn't until the toys realize that the younger kids play with them roughly, and Buzz goes to confront Lotso about this, that his true intentions are revealed. I love the way this is done, too. Buzz first encounters Lotso's men alone, and they're playing a card game, but they're talking about Buzz and his friends very differently than what Lotso was. They're talking about them like they're numbers, objects, things that can be disposed of or possibly used to their benefit. It's never outright said, but they give a very off-putting feeling. When Buzz is captured by them, he is tied up. Lotso comes in with the best acting ever. He seems heartbroken at the idea of Buzz being tied up and unties him. When Buzz explains his request to transfer to the bigger kid room, Lotso grants it to him, but only him. When Buzz denies wanting to stick with his friends, that's when Lotso shows his evil intentions. He ties him back up and switches his settings so that he thinks he is a space ranger again. As Jessie and the other toys realize that Andy still cares about them and plan to leave, Lotso shows up and has Buzz capture them. He then delivers an extremely cold speech. He says, "Listen up, folks. We got a way of doing things here at Sunnyside. If you start at the bottom, pay your dues, life here can be a dream come true. But if you break our rules, step out of line, try to check out early, well, you're just hurting yourselves," and ends by tossing Woody's hat on the ground. This is crazy to me even all these years later. Lotso here just fully admits his dictatorship over Sunnyside to the characters, and essentially says that if you try to leave, you die, and heavily alludes to the fact that he killed Woody, despite the fact that he knows that Woody got off scot-free. Lotso uses his loss and turns it into a tool for him to strike fear into the hearts of the toys. And if you somehow don't hate him yet, he manages to be so much worse by the finale. When the toys are escaping Sunnyside, Lotso and his men appear, revealing that they were able to get the information out of a toy telephone that helped out Woody. Let me repeat that. This G-rated third installment of a beloved Disney and Pixar franchise heavily implies that its villain beat the information out of another toy. That is insane. Then, of course, Woody confronts him about his past with his owner who replaced him, which, by the way, is another great scene that mimics Jessie's backstory in the last film, but in a completely unique way, with all the same emotion. This is when Lotso loses it and starts bullying those around him. His love for his owner that turned to anger and bitterness leads him to hitting Big Baby, who in return throws him into the dump. I've always appreciated the scene where after Lotso hits Big Baby, we see the reaction of his henchmen who are taken aback by this, further shown by the way they just leave when Lotso is thrown away. But of course, this villain isn't done yet. He drags Woody down with him and causes all the toys to be taken to the dump. When faced with the shredder, the gang are able to pick up metal objects to avoid it, but Lotso suddenly emerges and begs for help. Woody and Buzz, being the good people they are, put themselves in danger to save Lotso, and are successful, stating that they're all in this together now. Now faced with the danger of the incinerator, the gang is left with no option but to run for their lives. Lotso is able to find a ladder that leads to a shut-off switch that Woody and Buzz help him onto. He reaches the top as the toys get closer and closer to their doom. When he reaches the top, something happens. You can see the shift in his mind through his eyes. The idea of worry for them suddenly turns back to its resentment, and he leaves them for dead. This man is a menace. They went back and saved him after all that he did to them, and he left them for dead. It wouldn't have been any different if he saved them. He could have saved them and gone back to Sunnyside with an iron fist and let Woody and the gang be. But the years of love turned to bitter resentment prevented him from doing so. He had every opportunity for redemption and never took it. A lot of people take issue with his defeat, but I think that it's more than fitting. He sneaks off but gets picked up by a garbage man and stuck on the front of his truck, presumably for a very long time. I love the way that this contrasts the other villains in the franchise. Sid, while fairly traumatized, would go on to become a joyful garbage truck driver. Stinky Pete gets a shot at redemption when he was put in the backpack of a child who would play with him. Al, while having to file bankruptcy, was still left to his own devices to turn over a new leaf if he so chose. But Lotso gets no such luxury. Like I said, there were so many chances for him to redeem himself. So much so that at one point it was literally a button press away from him, and he never took it. Now he's gonna live out the rest of his days on the front of a garbage truck, trying not to swallow flies. Another neat detail I just realized was, as I was writing this script, is that the garbage truck driver states that he had a Lotso doll as a kid, it being the reason he decided to keep Lotso after all. This contrasts so beautifully with the fact that Lotso became a toy who replaced another, just like the toy who replaced him, who he despised so much. Lotso is a phenomenal villain that I can't believe they pulled off with a G rating. This guy is made of pure evil and is so much more terrifying than villains that I've seen in movies that should only be viewed by adults. Amazing. I give Toy Story 3 a 10 out of 10. A beautiful film that is not only my favorite in the franchise, but quite possibly all of Pixar and animation and maybe even film as well. An amazing character from start to finish, with more emotional moments than I can count, and amazing characterization all around. I realized I only really covered about 2 topics, which is pretty short compared to my other reviews, but they still filled up the same runtime and were the main things I wanted to cover. Honestly, I would have had to make multiple videos to fully cover everything I love about this film, and maybe one day I will. I love this film a lot. It was the first film I ever saw in theaters, and I've watched it time and time again ever since, and will continue to forever. Well, that's all, folks. I hope you enjoyed and feel free to share any opinions you had on the movie. A new episode releases each week, so stay tuned to see which film I cover next. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.